What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to be sharing my experience with going out to bars and clubs all by myself and why I think this habit saved my dating life. So, to start at the beginning, where I'm from, in order to go out, you have to be 21 and up. So, before I turned 21, I was limited to a few flawed options in order to meet girls. The first one was meeting girls kind of at school, my college, maybe girls in my classes, maybe friends of friends, stuff like that. The second option was through the gym, because I'd be there every day pretty much. And the third was dating apps. So the first option being college and class and all that, I think that's a great way to meet girls, honestly. And it did kind of set me up to have confidence when I was finally like of age to go out. But it was pretty hard to really like do anything with that. I kind of have the personality. I wouldn't call it high inhibition necessarily, but I think when it comes to like either daytime contexts or contexts where I'm gonna like see the person again, I do basically have a higher inhibition or just like sensitivity to the fact that like people are just trying to go about their days or go through class. They don't necessarily need me like hitting on them or putting them on the spot or anything like that. I'm not saying that's right at all. That's just kind of my temperament, especially at that time. It's probably less now that I built up all these reps with cold approach at night and stuff. But at the time, like, yeah, I'd try to like sit next to the cute girl in class and things like that. But it really didn't go anywhere ever, pretty much. And then through the gym, I mean, you know how the gym is. That's not really for similar reasons too. But on top of that, there's like the whole stigma about going up to girls at the gym. And I really like the gym and I don't want to feel awkward going to the gym because I got like turned down by some chick that goes there. So nothing, I don't think I've ever done a gym approach to be honest, like to this day. Or at least like, obviously I've like, I guess I've talked to girls here and there, but it was never really even social. It was just like, oh, are you using that? Oh, do you want to work in? Shit like that. Whatever. That's not the topic of today's video. And the third option that I had, which I did try a lot of, was dating apps. In fact, dating apps was really the only, because of the first two options kind of being ruled out, I was kind of limited to dating apps. And dating apps just suck. And who knows if it's my looks or the kind of pictures I have. I definitely had some pretty weird pictures back then, especially. But it just didn't work. And I had like weird experiences too. Like I had it like the peak of my dating app career wasn't even meeting a girl. It was like getting a girl that supposedly went to my school, but I never saw her. And like, but in hindsight, that was retarded because it was probably just some dude like man, you know what I mean? But I mean, nothing bad came of it, thank God. But I mean, nothing good came of it either. So maybe that's a different story for a different day. But I guess my point with that is that it was my only option, so I was going, like, balls deep into it, and then I would just end up in these, like, weird situations, and all of that was for nothing. Like, I literally, like, between the ages of 18 and 21, had a Tinder account, and it just sucked. Anyway, dating apps, nothing came of that. So by the time I turned 21, I was pretty excited. Especially because at that point, I felt like I wanted to do some sort of night game, but the whole, like, college party scene at my school was pretty much, like, cornered off for fraternities, which are basically these social clubs that you can join, and if you join them, then you have, like, clout on campus, and you can also, like, go to the parties that your group hosts, and they'll let in all of the hot girls at your school, but they won't let in any guys that are, like, non-affiliated. And I mean, there's a lot that comes with that, especially, like, binge drinking and hazing and stuff, and I wasn't down for any of that, so I never joined, but I kinda suffered the consequences of not really being able to, like, party like that, um, with the girls at my school until I turned 21. So I turned 21, and I started off by finding friends. I mean, the friends I already had, but kinda, like, asking them to go out with me. And the first time I went out, I was pretty excited. I was kinda, like, skeptical beforehand, because in my head, I was like, "Oh, no, the actual, like, party scene is where it's at, not these, like, bars and clubs." But when I went there and saw, like, how many girls my age are there, and so many of them are hot, and then I kinda made the rounds, and, like, I didn't have any success or anything, but I realized that it's a social environment, and girls are open to being approached, or at least at that time, because this was pretty much, like, right after COVID. This was, like, the year after COVID. I think it's a little bit worse now, but especially back then, I realized that girls were way more, like, they are there to socialize and even to meet guys in, like, a sexual or romantic context, compared to, like, sitting next to the girl in class and you have no idea if she has a boyfriend or not, and, you think something is gonna happen, and then you end up getting, like, cucked the whole time, because some other guy met her in this context. So, finally being in the context where girls are open to being approached and are trying to, like, go home with guys or at least meet guys in a, like, non-platonic way or whatever, was pretty exciting for me. The problem I had was that the friends that I was going with weren't that into it, and they weren't as excited about it as I was, so they wouldn't really be down to go as regular as me. So that's where I stumbled across this video from a YouTuber named More Plates, More Dates, who I'm sure many of you know, especially if you're into, like, the gym or biohacking or anything like that. But before he really popped off for that, he actually made a lot of dating and, like, pickup content, which I think is still out there. But he had this one video talking about going out solo. And up until that point, I thought the idea of going out by yourself was crazy, like, weird. It's, like, something for weirdos, and it's super scary and all that shit. But he's someone, I mean, he is kinda like, he's a funny guy. He definitely has his quirks, but especially at the time, I saw him as someone who, I'm not saying he's, like, totally, like, mainstream or whatever, but seeing someone who's, like, successful and cool and stuff, talking about going out solo as, like, a viable option. And in his video, he basically talks about how, yeah, if your friends aren't down to go out all the time, but you wanna really build this skill and hit volume and play the numbers game and just get better over time, you're gonna have to go out by yourself even when they're not down to go with you. I think he started off, feel like hearing videos about his story, he was, like, super shy and stuff, like the way I was. But he really, like, transformed his dating life to the point that I don't know how old he is, but to the point that now he's, like, totally, like, content and is able to focus on, like, his business and stuff. It just showed me that it was a really viable and, you know, good idea. So I started off by going out alone during the summer because all my friends were gone for the summer, because a lot of them are from, like, out of state. And that summer, the first summer that I was 21, I won't say what job I was doing, but I was basically doing a social kind of job where I deal with a lot of people all day, a lot of, like, customer complaints, a lot of, all kinds of shit. And that was the first, like, real, like, social job that I had. Like, it was the kind of job where you'd literally talk to, like, 500 people a day or something like that, maybe even more, honestly. Um, very customer facing. And I was quite a shy kid, but I just got so much confidence from that job, and then I'd get off work, and I'd drive straight to, like, the bar and club area of my city, and I was already warmed up from work, and I was all excited because it was like a blue ocean kinda thing, like, it was a new environment, a new frontier that, again, up till this point, I was stuck with talking to the girl next to me in class or swiping on dating apps for, like, hours. So I was just super excited, and I kinda hit this, like, volume with going out solo, and I really built this confidence that I was doing something. Just the fact that I was going by myself and, like, forcing myself to approach, and I wasn't even good, like, I wasn't pulling anyone. I was hardly getting girls' contact info or Instagrams or anything, but just the fact that I was there by myself and approaching made me feel like I was doing something, like, crazy that no one else was able to do, and, of course, there are people that do that, but I'd look around and there wasn't really anyone else, um, by themselves like me. So I just got this confidence that I was like it's kinda like if you wanna bench 225 and you go for, like, a weight above that, then you know for sure 225 is in the bag. I'm not saying that's how you train, but the analogy is it's like you're doing something harder than your target. So then I knew that when my friends would come back, I would have this, like, extra layer of confidence because then it's like, "Oh, well, approaching girls when my friends are around is easy," 'cause I was able to do it by myself while facing that whole stigma of being by yourself. I also got this realization that I was able to put myself in environments that are full of, like, the girls I'm interested in, and I was able to go without needing people with me. I'm not talking about it from a confidence perspective, but from a logistical perspective, it was like, yeah, if even if I lose all my friends, God forbid, or they all move, I'll still always have this kinda, like, option to go out and meet new people. And also, when you're by yourself, you kind of are open to the environment. If you think about when you're there in a group, you're kind of focused on your friends, on, talking to them. You kind of have the comfort of having them with you, so you kinda close off and just pay attention to them. But when you're by yourself, you can really, like sounds weird, but you can, like, people watch and observe your environment. And that's another thing if you're gonna get into this, and just in general for people with, like, any kind of, like, social anxiety, one of the big advices that are out there is to not focus on yourself, but instead to focus on your surroundings. Almost I mean, it sounds dumb, but, like, almost as if you're, like, going to the zoo. You're not really worried about the animals looking at you and, like, what they think about you. You're just interested in them, and you're just kind of like, "Oh, yeah, so this is how the 2 gorillas get along, and, oh, they're fighting or they're fighting," or whatever. And I think having that approach, especially when you're new, can really help you, not just with, like, being calm, but also through developing your own perspective on dating. Because another thing that I dealt with before this was because I was having limited experiences, um, before being able to go out, I was kinda stuck on, like, forums and, YouTube videos and just, like, other people's ideologies that they formed through their own experiences. So being able to just observe and develop my own kind of like view on things, noticing my own patterns, comparing it to like the things people would say on like black pill forums compared to red pill forums. And, I have a whole video talking about like status versus looks and looks versus game and all that. And a lot of that came from my own firsthand experiences of just not just with myself, but just watching. Like, even if I had a shitty night, I'd still leave the club being like, okay, yeah, that girl rejected me, but she went with that guy. And that guy, looked like this or dressed like this or acted like this. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder what about that is attractive or even not even related to myself, but just like watching like, oh, you know, this girl rejected this guy, went with that guy, or she's dating this guy. He's ugly or he's attractive but acts weird and she's ugly, so that makes sense or whatever. Just things like that. It was just so interesting and you can apply that and kind of develop your own ideology and manifesto going forward. Also, when you're by yourself, you have these experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like you just have these random, you'd meet random people because if you're with people, then you might not get approached. I'm not talking about by girls, but like, a certain guy, um, that, like whatever, you never know his story. Or maybe he knows like where the afters are or whatever. He won't necessarily approach you if you're with your buddies, but he will if you're by yourself because it's like, oh, what's that guy doing? And then you just meet all these like interesting characters. And it's just like building this repertoire of experience that if you're anything like me is so different than the experience of again being stuck with dating apps with your like one match a week or month and like the girl that sits next to you in class that's like just being nice or whatever. All of a sudden you're opened up to these random encounters and you never know because I mean not just random, it could be from approaches, but there's just so many experiences even with girls. Like if I think about my life, most of my successes came from this environment. If I was stuck with dating apps, I don't know if I'd ever have any kind of dating success or like meeting girls in class. Like, I don't, in hindsight, yeah, like I never really hit it off on a man to woman level with like girls in my class. And if I was just stuck with that, I'd be fucked. Perhaps, I'd try harder if that was my only option, but that's not necessarily great. The point is that you're opening yourself up to this whole new, like, random encounter, and every time you go out, you're kind of rolling the dice, and that's not even to count the whole fact that, like, cold approach and stuff is a skill, and that you can improve this skill and then improve your odds of rolling the dice every night. Now, of course, going out with friends from, like, a tactical perspective is better. The times that I've been out with friends I've gotten way more success with girls. I think girls like to see you in a group, see how you act with your friends. If they see you being loud and kind of obnoxious and joking around, I think that is quite attractive, especially to the kind of girls that go out that tend to be more extroverted and to respond more to like social proof and stuff like that. But I think just being able to go out by yourself and kind of having that ability in your back pocket is a superpower. And like I said earlier about the whole like bench press analogy, it's like if you're able to go out by yourself once you're with friends, it's just so much easier because like, you don't even have that anxiety of the club anymore. Like, when you're by yourself, you have a level of anxiety and it's pretty high because it's the club and you're by yourself, but you get accustomed to that. So then imagine when you're with friends, most guys would still have a little bit of like jitters about, oh, it's the club, there's all these hot girls and competitive guys or whatever. But now it's like naughty, that doesn't even enter your brain. And that confidence can really like shine through your vibe and through your interactions. So, all in all, I do really recommend at least trying it and going into it with an open mind and just being like, even if it doesn't work, just sticking with it a little bit and like making adjustments. Like, even if you don't have success, because I didn't have success for a very long time of doing this, but I just got a window, I got a vision that I realized that my odds, even though I was still striking out, I just realized that based off of like the amount of girls that are there and how easy it is to start an interaction, you can just say hi or like ask a dumb question and you're talking to her. It's like maybe she's not into you, but you are in front of her at that moment. and you never know what can happen. And realizing that that um, world exists, I just stuck with it until I was able to kind of figure out how to dress, how to act, how to the whole like game aspect of things too. Anyway, guys, this was a long one. I rambled a lot. If you're still here, I appreciate you. If you're interested in improving your Instagram so that you can meet girls on there and kind of exchange that with the girls that you meet at the club, make sure to check out my free Instagram accent course linked in the description. I kind of built it with the things that I learned through like exchanging Instagrams at the club. And at first, like they wouldn't follow me back. But then when I fixed a bunch of things, um, my percentages of success improved a lot. So that's basically what's in there. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.